Hi, I'm Judy Maxwell from the Study and Learning Centre at RMIT University, and this is part 4 in the series on structuring a thesis literature review. The objective of this section is to identify the elements of a typical literature review conclusions or summary section. Now you've put the body into a logical order, it's time to ask, so what? In the conclusion or summary, you discuss the significance of the key literature and evaluate the body of knowledge generally. You can do this by summarizing the key literature and major contributions and identifying general inconsistencies and gaps in the lit. Once again, don't forget to relate this to your research question or problem. Now let's have a look at a couple of examples of lit review conclusions. You can see here where the major contributions of significant research have been identified. Then the gaps in research are identified, and finally the lit review is related to the present study by showing how the gaps will be filled. Here's another example of conclusions. The first paragraph summarizes the major research in a general way. This is made more explicit in the second paragraph, and the last paragraph rounds off the chapter with a hint of what's next. Bourdieu's ideas are explained in the very next chapter. Because the literature is summarized, there are no citations in either this or the previous example, and it's important not to bring any new lit into the conclusions. One or two examples of key literature is sometimes cited, but this would already have been discussed in the body. There's also no discussion of gaps or inconsistencies in the literature here, because in this case the last section of the body of the lit review has fully discussed these. Following on from the previous example, here are the first 3 paragraphs from the section before the conclusion section. You can clearly see that each paragraph discusses the gap in the literature, and that each of these are related to how the current study will attempt to address these gaps. It also identifies the main focus of the literature and justifies the current study by highlighting a key concern in the literature. So what now? The best way you can get a feel for what's possible in your lit review is to read others, particularly from the same subject area. You'll find other databases of theses in your library. If you're an RMIT student, a good starting place is the Guide to Finding and Obtaining Theses. Here are also some other online resources you might find useful. Here are some guiding questions to help you when you read other theses. This brings us to the end of the presentation. Now it's up to you to put this into practice in your own lit review. To get a complete picture of how to structure your thesis lit review, it's important to look at each of the 4 parts of this module. But remember that writing conventions differ between disciplines, and you still need to be guided by your supervisor. We wish you well in your studies.